Good day, two-wheel friends. Zack here with RevZilla, and welcome to another episode of Daily Rider, coming at you from a cold and windy Los Angeles, California. On the show today is the Kawasaki Ninja 400. That is a twin-cylinder sport bike that weighs about 370 pounds and costs just less than $6,000. And you know, sometimes we start off these rides with a very broad question like, is this bike even good to ride to work? How do we know? Well, spoiler alert, the Ninja 400 is an excellent little machine. Its reputation precedes this ride, you might say. So, on the commute today, we will discuss the history of the Wii Ninja and also talk about how it developed such a glowing reputation. You ready to ride? I'm ready. Let's go. Alrighty, everybody. Before we get going, a quick announcement. This episode of Daily Rider is brought to you in part by our friends at REVER. REVER is a mobile app that allows you to plan and track your rides and then share photos and ride information with your friends and an online community. Download it for free at your app store, or to learn more, go to rever.co. Wow. See the sun come out right as we started talking about tracking our ride and sharing it with our friends? Apropos. Man. Okay. Let's dive into this Ninja 400, shall we? We usually start with the engine underneath this slightly dirty bodywork from riding in the rain. There is a 399cc parallel twin in there with a 180-degree crank. That means the pistons go up and down like this. Stopping all that horsepower is a single disc up here, 310 mil disc, I believe, which is pretty big for a rotor on a motorcycle. But of course, there's only one of them, which sort of makes sense. And then pretty basic little two-piston Nissan caliper there, rubber lines, nothing too fancy in the suspension or braking componentry, not surprisingly. And yeah, the rest of the bike, pretty basic architecture. Steel tube frame, steel tube subframe, basic swing arm, and oh yeah, this seat here. So you can see that the seat is pretty scooped. It's fairly low. We'll talk more about that once we're sitting on the bike. But I wanted you to take note of the big step up to the passenger seat here, which we'll talk about when we discuss passenger accommodations. It's sort of a sport bike-y kind of thing to do, and especially since the seat on this bike is low, to make it approachable for any old rider, the passenger seat's a little higher. Something to keep in mind. All right, let's fire this bad Nelly up, shall we? So yeah, pretty basic little dash, which of course we'll dissect later on. But a nice big analog tack there. And a mean little pitter patter from the pipe. All right. And yeah, pretty sharp styling. I think Kawasaki's done a bang up job with how the thing looks. It really does have an aggressive true sport bike look. But, oh, that's the other thing I want to talk about, was these raised clip-ons here. So you can see the handlebars are clipped onto the top of the fork, and they're kind of raised, they're stepped up, right? And that creates a much higher handlebar, essentially, two handlebars. And we'll talk about that more when we discuss ergonomics here in a minute. I keep telling you we're going to talk about stuff more, so let's do it already. Let's hit the road. Little Ninja. Okie doke, let's talk about specs on this little bad boy, shall we? I said it weighs 370 pounds, it actually weighs 372 pounds on the Daily Rider scales with a full 3.7 gallons of fuel in the tank. And as for the price that I mentioned, just under $6,000 for this KRT Kawasaki Race Team Paint Scheme Edition with ABS is $5,900. If you get it without ABS, it's $5,400. Sorry, excuse me, $5,500. So it's a $400 surcharge for ABS. And the seat height is listed at 30.9 inches, at 30.9 inches. You can see I've got a pretty steady bend in my knee there. It is narrow in the middle of this bike and plenty approachable no matter what size person you are. As for horsepower figures, there are no claimed numbers from Kawasaki, but if you do some Googling, you'll probably find about 44 rear wheel horsepower at about 10,000 RPM and something like 25 foot-pounds of torque. So not exactly a monstrously powerful engine, but enough to scoot down the road, as we'll find out today. As for the basic ergonomics of the bike, one of the things that defies expectations most of all, I think, with the Ninja 400 is how comfortable it is to sit on. It looks very aggressive. It looks extremely sporty. It looks as sporty as its big brother, a 636 potentially, a ZX6, you know, or a Yamaha R7 or something like that. But it's not nearly as aggressive a riding position as any of those bikes. Those stepped up clip-on handlebars that I pointed out earlier mean that the bike is actually pretty upright, very, very upright for a sport bike. Perhaps the most upright sport bike that I can think of, actually. The seat is pretty comfortable, not too bad. The only thing that tall people will find, I think, that they might not like would be the seat to foot peg distance, which is a little tight because they don't want the pegs to be high because it is a sporty little machine after all. So yeah, I'm 6'2", and I think if you're over 6 feet, you might find yourself thinking, oh geez, it's like, you know, it's a little not cramped, but a little tight between the seat and foot pegs, which is, you know, kind of sport bikey and not that surprising. The other thing I don't want to forget to mention about the ergonomics is the exhaust pipe on the right side hits my heel. And this is something that a lot of people point out. I do not have especially large feet, approximately a size 11. And my colleagues, coworkers, and friends who've ridden this bike who have larger feet, say 12 or 13 or something like that, they notice that that pipe really hits the heel back there. Not a really horrible Achilles heel for a motorcycle to have, but something to note, certainly. All right, let's see what 44 horsepower and 25 foot-pounds of torque does when we merge onto this freeway here. Oh, had to shut it down right away. Even though we're not quite up to speed on the freeway here, I do want to point out that the Ninja 400 has plenty of get up and go. It'll go 80 miles an hour all day, no problemo. Some people think that, you know, small bikes, Ninja 300s, Ninja 400s, like, oh, can it even keep up with traffic? Is it dangerously slow? Absolutely not. It's a perfectly acceptable amount of power, and it's a very willing little engine. And it's actually not too bad at this kind of riding in general. Just cruising down the highway, 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. It'll do this all day. If you want to take a long road trip or something like that, I would absolutely recommend this bike. It's perfectly fine for this. The only thing that I say is as you get closer to 75, 80 miles an hour, you get some buzz in the handlebars and in the foot pegs. The foot pegs are bare metal, being a sport bike, so you know it gets a little tingly. And if you rode it all day, you might have a little tingle in your hands. But in general, it's not something that I think a bike like this should be demerited for. I think sport bikes should have a little. Any bike with any sporting pedigree should have a little pulse from the engine, even if the engine is, you know, kind of a buzzy little blender. And I don't think it detracts from the experience of the bike at all. Fuel mileage on a Ninja 400 will depend greatly on how you ride it. I think the lowest number I remember calculating on this bike was in the high 40s. And lots of numbers in the mid 50s for me, low 60s even. I think getting 65 miles to the gallon would not be that difficult on a bike like this. And yeah, with a 3.7 gallon fuel tank, that's pretty good legs. I mean, you go 150, 200 miles pretty easily, and that's more than adequate range for a bike like this, in my opinion anyway. No, the dash the dash says I have 171 miles. I didn't even realize it was calculating range. Look at you, you sophisticated little fella. It's got a range calculator right on there. It says we're going to go 175 miles on this tank. So yeah, my estimate of 150 to 200 while broad was pretty accurate, it seems. I think that small engines like this sometimes react more heavily to different styles of riding. If you really flog it, you know, if you're riding a track day or something like that, you're obviously not going to get 60 miles a gallon. But yeah, very, very good balance for this type of bike. And again, maybe something that defies expectations a little bit. Last thing we usually talk about here is the mirrors, and I think the mirrors have the same kind of problem that the Ninja 1000 has. It's a big brother there, which is that they're kind of far away. The placement is nice, and they don't vibrate much. They're nice pieces of equipment in general, but yeah, they just kind of don't. They're so far away from my face that the field of view is kind of small, which is too bad because otherwise they're quite well engineered. In general, they're not bad. Okie dokie, into the neighborhood here. We do a stop sign challenge, see if we can get 0 mile/hour stops with our feet up. This is portrayed on Daily Rider anyway as a measurement of low speed balance and predictability. First one was a success. Good stuff, little Ninja 400. I promised everyone you were excellent at everything, so don't let me down. Really, the Ninja 400 has all of the things that are good about, oh, this person I'm going to yield to you. Oh, they're yielding to me. I couldn't do it. Anyway, the Ninja 400 has all the things that make for a good round town bike. The engine is in a fairly mild state of tune, low in the revs anyway, and it's just easy to use. The throttle response has a little herk and jerk down on off, but that's pretty typical for modern fuel injected bikes. And in general, everything is just very easy to use. Again, the upright riding position takes a little bit of weight off your wrists for doing this kind of thing. That was a little sketchy, but we got it. Yeah, the only kind of couple quirks that the bike has is the clutch pull, which I think for veteran riders might be a little odd. It's really, really light, and oftentimes people who have many years experience riding, when they try a Ninja 400 clutch for the first time, they think, man, it's like there's nothing even there. But I think in general, I really like the light clutch pull. I think it's good for newer riders. It won't tire your arm out in traffic and that kind of thing. And ultimately, I think the clutch feel is perfectly acceptable. It's just a little, takes a little getting used to, depending on what your riding experience is. As we pull up to this red light here, I can point out another little featurette that the Ninja 400 has. I often find neutral a little bit tricky to get. I often go from second gear to neutral, and it's a little tricky on this bike. But one of the reasons that I'm not mad at it is that it has a system in place. I forget what Kawasaki calls it, but when I'm in neutral here, if I pull in the clutch, I cannot go to second gear. It will not let you go to second gear. You can go down to first, but not to second, which means ultimately neutral is very easy to find, because all you have to do is go down to first and then pull up on the shift lever and you will not go to second gear. Is it a ultra crucial feature in this machine as far as I'm concerned? No, but it's thoughtful, and while it might annoy veteran riders, I think it's a good call for potential buyers of a Ninja 400. So even though you're not supposed to select second gear from a stop, we can go down to second gear and try to do a footless stop in second. Let's see how polite. Oh geez, I fudged it up, but we still left the stop in second gear very, very easily. And I might even gear this bike up, I suppose, depending on your riding experience, what you're used to. I might shed a couple teeth in the rear sprocket or go up a tooth in the front sprocket, something like that, just to you know, gear it taller. That's all I have to say about that. The short gearing is kind of fun for situations like this, though. When you like accelerate around town, you can go zing and go up to 11,000 RPM, and you're only going 38 miles an hour or whatever. It's kind of a fun aspect of this bike, I think. Now right onto Lover's Lane, which is very pertinent, of course, because if you're riding a Ninja, you're going to have plenty of potential lovers, if you know what I mean. And Ninja 400 passenger accommodations, I will say my lady never likes it when I bring home a sport bike, because they're always a little bit uncomfortable, and the Ninja 400 is definitely more of a sport bike from a passenger accommodation standpoint than a rider accommodation standpoint. Remember how I told you that it's surprisingly comfortable? Well, the passenger accommodation is a little bit less so. The seat's kind of narrow back there, and the seat to peg distance again is a little bit tight, so it's not great. The one good thing it does have going for it, which my passenger often comments on anyway, is that big scoop to the passenger seat and the sort of tall pillion, I pointed that out in the parking lot earlier, means that she's more likely to be able to see over my shoulder and have a good view of the road. So it's a little yin and yang, I suppose. Okay, as we dip into the twisty section of road here, the Ninja 400 is absolutely terrific at this kind of thing. It is so much fun. And don't mistake my love for the Ninja 400's handling prowess as some sort of mistake, because I think that it's the ultimate sport machine. Like, is it as refined as a fully flux capacitated R6 with a revalved this and that? No, it's not. It's built to a budget, but if anyone tells you that they're on a Ninja 400 at the track and the bike is holding them back, there's an 80% chance that it's BS. This bike is so fun. Bone stock, showroom stock. Take it to a racetrack, ride around. The tires are good enough, the brakes are good enough, the suspension's good enough. It's really fun. Sure, upgrades will help, but it's a really capable and willing and fun companion on any set of twisty curves. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, out of the twisty road sections, sadly, and back to surface streets. It's really fun. It's not my favorite engine design. I don't like the way that the vibrations are transmitted. They're kind of high frequency and a little bit annoying, and I don't love the way that the engine sounds, if I'm being honest. But this engine is unquestionably fun and dynamic and interesting, despite my subjective prejudices against it. It's like a puppy dog with a stick in its mouth. It's just like, yeah, go, come on, go. It wants to play, and that kind of emotion is transmitted to the rider in a really kind of obvious way, in my opinion, and I love that about this bike. All right, approaching this red light here. This one usually takes a minute, so let's see if we can talk about this dash. This dash won't take that long to talk about. You got your big analog tachometer here that I talked about before, that I think is very pleasing and a fun way to engage with the motorcycle. Gear position indicator in the middle here, nice and big, which is good, I think, just above the clock. And then over here, a speedo and trip meter up here. Range down here. Range is up over 200, everybody. I must be riding very efficiently. Good job, Zach. And then fuel gauge and temp gauge. Very simple. I think that the dash is laid out basically exactly the way that it should be. My only real complaint with the dash is that bright sunlight, if you're riding into bright sunlight, I think the contrast isn't maybe quite sharp enough, but it's really picking nits. And one of the reasons that all the complaints that I have about this bike, whether it's like the mirror field of view or my heel touching the exhaust, or you know, the slight lack of brightness in the dash, like these are all pretty weak little complaints. And I think ultimately this bike is very refined, and that has a lot to do with the history of the bike, which I promised I would talk about. Depending on where you live in the world, you were able to get a Kawasaki EX250 or Ninja 250 as early as the early 80s, I think. 1986 is when the bike came to North America, and that bike was largely unchanged, I think, through the 2000s, if memory serves. And then the Ninja 250 turned into the Ninja 300 as a 2013 model, and then in 2018 the Ninja 400 came out. And I sometimes make maybe not a big deal, but I mentioned that I think that when motorcycle manufacturers have done something for a while, they get good at it. And I think a small sport bike is a perfect example from Kawasaki's perspective. They've been making a small sport bike for a long time, and it's probably one of the reasons that the Ninja 400 is so good. So to reflect on the Ninja 400, all of its history and a few of its faults and mostly good things that we've talked about this bike, I think it just strikes such an interesting and cohesive balance of looking good. It looks awesome. It looks sharp. It looks like a real true sport bike, because it is a true sport bike. It is a real sport bike. It's actually fun on a racetrack. It doesn't have a huge amount of power, but it's an awesome sport bike. And then when you go to ride it, it's surprisingly comfortable and yet playful and willing and eager, and it's just an excellent blend of all those things, especially at the price point. Green light, everybody, which is very reasonable. You know, $5,500 for one of these things. You know, if you're riding a European super middleweight $18,000 sport naked that has Brembo calipers and steel braided lines and all that stuff, like, the brakes had better be good, right? They'd better be good for that kind of money and for that bike. But a bike like this, you sort of think, oh boy, it just, you're not sure what the expectations are. And then when you grab the front brake lever, it's surprisingly good. It's just solid and not not too bitey, not too grabby, but plenty of power. It's just, and that's the bike in a microcosm. It's just sort of, every time you turn around, it's better than you thought it would be. And sure, the levers aren't adjustable and the suspension adjustment is very limited. And, you know, it's built to a price point, certainly. There's no question about that. But, man, is it a pleasing little bike. And it will go down a dirt road if you really want to. Oh my God. Look at this. I don't want to do this. It's a complete freaking... Oh my God. Okay, I guess if I don't do it, then everyone... Okay, I'm doing this for you, the Daily Rider audience, because I basically promised that I would do it. Ugh, I don't want to do this, though. This is not my idea of a good time. Oh my God. Here goes nothing, everybody. We're gonna run out of real estate very fast here. Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Okay, we're gonna go around this log. I'm stuck. That spinning tire. Oh no. Oh no. Come on, little guy. What the hell is this? Oh, I gotta go across. Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Oh, I hope there's nothing underneath this mud puddle. It is absolutely swimming around. These tires are not for this at all. Okay, here we go. Really don't want to put my foot down. Really don't want to put my foot down. Oh, I'm putting my foot down. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. I'm just sliding everywhere. Oh my gosh. Okay. Perhaps maybe I'm getting the hang of it. Maybe I'm doing it. Maybe we're doing it. All right, team. Ninja 400 Enduro. It's going great. Everything is totally under control and fine and great. Yeah, the mud, the slippery little mud stuff is really the... There we go. It's actually pretty fun and reasonable to spin up tire like that. Great little engine. Great little engine. Okay, out to a dry section of pavement here. We can see if this sucker will do a wheelie. We're gonna go first gear. Hey, yep. Oh, there we go. Whoa, second gear. Look out. There we go. Third gear. Oh, third gear. We're still going. Holy smokes. Ninja 400, everybody. Sport bike life. Can we back it in? We're going to go fourth to first and dump the clutch. And yeah, big old back in. You can't adjust ABS on the Ninja 400, but it does have a great slipper clutch and nice feel from the front brake. So if you're hard on the front brake and the back end's light, oh my gosh, the truck is moving, and we're not going to back it in here, are we? Anyway, fun little bike. Yeah. We got shafted on the U-turn test here. What do we do? I think we'll line up here, and then in this parking spot here, and then we go full lock left, feet up. Come on. Oh yeah, that's less than 2 parking spaces, I think. 1.8, 1.9 parking spaces, perhaps. But a truly delightful little machine. Very hard not to ride this bike around and without being just kind of like charmed by motorcycling in general. Oh my God, it's a freaking wreck. That's not flattering. That's not good. Okay, well, I guess I'm pulling grass out of the fork clip, and I guess I'm washing an Ninja 400 later. Good to know. Like I said, terrifically willing and capable and dynamic little engine, but it does sound like a gas-powered appliance. But you know, nobody's nerfect, as the bumper sticker says, right? Okay, let's answer some Instagram questions here, shall we? First real question here is from Harvey Mushman 48. Love the reference to On Any Sunday, by the way. Harvey Mushman asks, overall, would you have one over an RC390 as a track toy? Yes, I would, because there are more of them out there. I think the aftermarket's deeper. I think you're more likely to find other people on Ninja 400s. You're more likely to find a part for it if you break something off at a track day or a race. I don't know the service intervals for an RC390 off the top of my head, but the Ninja 400 ones are massive. I think it's 16,000 miles for valve checks, despite being able to rev the thing to 12,500 RPM and it being like just a really fairly high revving engine for considering the performance of the class. It's an easygoing bike. And every time I ride one on a track, I'm impressed, and I just love it. So I would. I'm not saying that's the right decision. That's what I would do. Next question, not so much a question as a comment. This is from Peter Low1, or Peter Lowioni, depending on how Italian Peter is. Anyway, Peter says, please let people know that experienced riders can enjoy this bike. This is so much more than a beginner's bike, and I think you agree. Yes, I do, Peter, and if that has not been clear, my goodness, if you think that you need a GSX-R 750 or an R6 or something like that to go to a track day because, you've been riding for a few years and, you ride a 100 horsepower bike on the street, so you need something faster for the track. You don't. Get one of these. I can pretty much promise you that you'll love it. In fact, we had a friend of ours here at RevZilla West who did the same thing. Thought he wanted a Gixxer. We talked him into a Ninja 400. He's been going to track days for a year and a half now, and he absolutely loves the thing, despite it being a lot slower than his street bike. So, yes, thank you, Peter. Expert riders, you're on notice too. This is still a great bike, even if you think it's too slow. Here's a question from CB750RR. Is it a better bike than the aging Ninja 650? I think it is better than a Ninja 650. And it's not that it's faster in a straight line, because it's not, or that it would necessarily fit you better, whoever you are. But I just think that every time I ride a Ninja 650, I always kind of think like, oh yeah, I guess I get it. It's kind of sporty looking, and it's sort of, I guess it's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's just the expectations that I have. And every time I ride a Ninja 650 on a racetrack, I'm just sort of like, oh, I don't know. I don't love this. And when I ride one of these on a racetrack, I'm like, God, this is fun. I'm not sure exactly what it is about the two bikes that makes me feel that way. But yeah, I think I would get one of these instead of a Ninja 650. Ninja 650 would probably fit you better as a larger rider to ride to work every day or something like that. But I don't know. I think this bike's a little more dynamic and more fun, I guess, at the end of the day. Next question is from Byron DH, who asks, how does it compare to Honda CB500 range? Great question, Byron. So the CB500 range includes a CBR500R, which is actually pretty comparable to this bike. That bike, in many ways, seems very similar, and as a street bike, it is kind of similar. I think the CBR500 is maybe a better street bike. It's just the slightly larger engine does give you a little more grunt down low, and it's very comfortable, but it's very tame and calm and kind of sedate, and it's like a Ninja 400 with a bigger engine and on Ambien. It's just kind of like sleepy and yeah, calm. So overall, I think the Ninja 400 is just a better bike than a CBR 500RB, so kind of for the same reason as the Ninja 650 comparison. It's more fun, it's more dynamic. However, if you just want a street bike, there is also a CB500F, which is an upright naked bike, no fairing, and I think that bike as a street bike is really, really excellent. It's versatile. It doesn't pretend to be a sport bike, and therefore I think the engine dynamic works a little bit better in that chassis and that application. And someone else mentioned in here somewhere the Z400, which is a naked version of this bike. I guess ultimately where I'm going with all these comparisons, if I was going to choose between the sport bikes, CBR 500 and Ninja 400, I go Ninja 400. If I was going to choose between the naked bike, CB500F or Z400, I'd probably go CB500F. I just think that that's a very, very good bike. But they are quite comparable, and that's a good thing to bring up. And hopefully all of those opinions and context helps you in some way. Let's do some quick hit ones here, just because I have all the questions in front of me. I don't usually do this. Toast for Days 10 asks, is the lack of torque / having to keep the revs up annoying for everyday commutes? No. Next question. Wes Evanson asks, is this the best entry-level track daily sport bike? Yes. Edmund Dragusha, who asks, in terms of maintenance costs, is it a high or low maintenance? Low. Okay, second to last question here is from Moore Tim 909, who says, if this bike was a pastry, what would it be? A good question, I like it. I think it would be one of those mini eclairs, And I think every time I see a mini eclair, I kind of think like, I don't know, is it really what I want it to be? And then I have one and I think, oh man, I want another one. Which in the case of eclairs is kind of sad, but in the case of a motorcycle, I think is pretty good, right? Okay, last question here is another another analogy one, which I really like. It is from LBash303, or perhaps iBash303, I can't tell. LBash303, who asks, if this bike were one of the RevZilla team, who would it be? Okay. So I'm on the RevZilla team. It could be me, Zack. You got Ari Henny, you got Spurgeon Dunbar, you got Jen Dunstan, you got Patrick Garvin. Those are all the on-camera hosts anyway. You got Spencer Robert, the CTXP director there. But this bike isn't Spencer Robert. No, it's not. And it's certainly not Spurgeon Dunbar, crusher of jumps. It's small, it's petite, it's sporty. It's more fun to hang around with than you were expecting, perhaps. I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment or an insult or something like that. It's Jen Dunstan. Of course, it's Jen. Jen's got a pretty good track resume, and this bike's good on the racetrack. And of course, it's small, packs a punch. So yeah, this is the Jen Dunstan of of motorcycles, in so much as the RevZilla host question. I hope you get a kick out of that. Anyway, more to the point, Jen Dunstan just had this very bike in her possession. She did not get it all muddy, but she did ride it around on the street and write a one tank of gas review, we call them, sort of an alternative take on living with the motorcycle. And Jen is a lot smaller than I am physically, and she has a slightly different riding background than I have. And so if you are sick of my opinions at this point, someone who is 6'2" and almost 200 pounds, then go over to Common Tread or click the link in the description of this video and read Jen's one tank of gas review on this bike for a different take. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for all those questions. That was super fun. Let's put the sucker on the Daily Rider leaderboard. What do you say?
All right, everybody, here we go with the Daily Rider leaderboard. We've got the Ninja 400 ready to go. I do have a little smiley face on here because that bike makes me so happy. It gets giggle nod, basically. You heard me giggling when I was riding it. It's so good. Speaking of stickers on the board, actually, I rode the Hayabusa recently and did not put a fire emoji. And if any bike deserves a fire emoji for being a spicy can of tuna there, that Hayabusa definitely. So anyway, we got the emoji sorted out for the Hayabusa, you'll be happy to know. And we've got a little smiley face for the Ninja 400 because it's so good. It's such a happy little machine, and it makes me a happy machine. Where does the Ninja 400 fall on the 23 leaderboard here? Is the Ninja 400 better than a Hayabusa to ride to work on? It's not as exhilarating, I'll say that, but yes, it's better. It's more comfortable, it's lighter, it's easier to push around your garage. It's just so competent. It's so good. Is it better than SV650, the Ninja 400? No, it's not. It is not. So the Kawasaki Ninja 400 breaks up the Suzuki monopoly at the top of the leaderboard here for 2023, but the SV650 is sitting proud up there. In my mind, an SV650 is sort of a larger version of a Ninja 400 in so much as it just does just about anything you want to do. I don't think an SV650 is quite as pleasing and confidence inspiring in bone stock trim on a racetrack, but aside from that, the SV will do whatever you want to do, and it's pretty darn approachable, and the engine is just terrific, better than a Ninja 400, and it's comfortable. It's just like, it does it all. That bike does it all. Where would it fall on these on the old leaderboard here? Ninja 400, better than XSR 900, I think. Ooh, though that's close. Ooh, better than MT10? It'd be like right around here, I think. Is it better than an MT10? I'd probably sooner recommend it. So we'll give it the nod. It'll go just under the KLR 650 there. So that's pretty good, above halfway there on the 22 leaderboard. 2021, probably something similar. 60, 70th percentile maybe. So yeah, Ninja 400, terrific motorcycle. Very happy to have explored it and shared it with you all here on Daily Rider. I hope you learned a thing or two. Hope you had fun, and I hope to see you next time on Daily Rider. See you, everybody. Shoot, I forgot. There's a CBR 500 right here. This little guy here. Yeah, there's the one I was just talking about because Spencer has it in-house to write a review on it. So look for that on Common Tread also. CBR 500 review, you get a different take on a different sort of entry-level sport bike. Okay, now I'm leaving for real. See you later.
And, oh, hi there. Thanks for joining us. You're distracting me. Oh my God. It's like American Beauty all over again.